In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared, and we ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. What's going on? How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining me once again. Friday, April 24th, 2026. Big shout out and happy birthday to my brother Tim. Unfortunately for his gift, I think he got sideswiped today. So shout out to Tim. Hope everything's all right with you in the vehicle. Let me know if we could be of some assistance. But how are we doing today, guys? Made it through another week. You made it through another week. What's going on, Yakov? Thank you so much for starting off in the right direction. Live from Boston, it is Blunt Politics. Let's go, brother. Appreciate you for all the work that you do down there. Shout out to the chat. What's up, CSL? What's up, my brother? What's happening, dude? Good to see you. Appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much. Always good to see everybody. Like I said, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Welcome in, one and all. You did make it through another week. You did. You didn't think you were gonna. You didn't think it was possible. You may not even have wanted to, but you did. You made it through another week. So again, I appreciate you for somehow finding yourself in the position of being here with us. So thank you so much to CSL. Thank you so much to Olga, Bingo, Dawn, Rocks, all of the mods from all of the different platforms, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, or Substack. Make sure you hit the respective likes, thumbs up, even if it's a thumbs down, even if you hate what you're watching, you can't stand me, can't stand the sight of me. Let me know in the chat. Leave a comment. Even the bad stuff tends to help, I guess. So let me know. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But thank you so much to everybody started off in the right way. Thank you to Deb for the one gifted. Very much appreciate you guys. You guys can gift memberships in the chat to all of the fantastic people in this community. Hopefully, as we continue to bring more people into the community, right, we try to build a welcoming place here where, you know, everybody can get their thoughts out. We can have, in-depth discussions and debates while I'm coming down on the right side of history. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you, Ellen, Tina, Greg, Roxanne. Very much appreciated. We got a lot to get into, a lot to talk about. We'll be discussing, obviously, Donald Trump's falling asleep as the world burns around him. We'll take a couple looks at a couple clips of that. We got Pete Hegseth telling more lies. We got Donald Trump honestly seeing the lowest numbers as far as the president on the economy in the history of this country. Again, all of the numbers now, polling numbers seem to be just dropping through the floor. We got more market manipulation as Trump once again decides to, basically announce like absolutely nothing. So he's sending Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to Islamabad again to negotiate with the mediators. So nobody from Iran's going to be there. JD Vance isn't going. But again, they're going to negotiate with the media, which has never made sense to me. Obviously, we got some more Lego videos. We got clips from Benny Johnson, LBC, and James O'Brien, and a few videos diving into some updates and the ongoing terror that the Russians are now facing under the drone and missile, launches that the Ukrainians have put on them in the last couple months. I know the last one we were talking about was 2 ops and how bad that was hit. So we got a few different videos kind of detailing some updates in the front lines. Obviously, some ongoing details about how effective those strikes inside of Russia and obviously inside of Crimea have been. So I appreciate you guys one more time. Let's see if we can dive into, the first of the craziness, a little bit of what we wanted to talk. There's so much. It really is. You know what I mean? It never ceases to amaze me how much we have to talk about. And I'm going to start off right here. And again, this is the question of how's your government doing? Well, not very good. And this is, this is what happens when you have a corrupt fraudster, a con man leading the nation. This is what happens when you have people like Pete Hegseth and JD Vance. Nobody can tell me what to do. We're not going to follow international law. Make money however you can, right? I mean, this is what happens. It starts filtering down to the underlings. So now we see here. I'm sure you guys have heard now. A U.S. soldier has been arrested for polymarket bets on Maduro capture that won $400,000, Justice Department says. And you're probably like, well, what's going on there? Well, if the guy was involved in the goddamn raid, you know what I mean? It says here, U.S. Army Special Forces Master Sergeant was arrested on an indictment accusing him of using classified information to make bets that won him $400,000 on the polymarket prediction market related to the U.S. military mission that captured Venezuela leader Nicolas Maduro, the Department of Justice said. Gannon Kenvile Dyke, again, was involved in the planning of an execution in Operation Absolute Resolve, which apprehended Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, in early January, the DOJ says. And again, this is just, we talked about, what was it, yesterday or the day before, I forget his title, the chief nuclear scientist there who was getting honeypotted, basically just coming out with all of the information, where the nuclear sites were, what the United States was planning on doing, wasn't planning on doing as far as who they're taking out in the Iranian leadership. We showed you the clip on the show, but this is the degeneracy of our government. This is the failure of our leadership right now. It's filtering down to basically every aspect that they have their hands on. Right, the corruption, the fraud, the don't tell me what to do. Nobody could ever hold me accountable. At every point, at every turn, just say you were right. Doesn't matter. Fuck them. That type of thing. Well, now we're starting to see it, filter down even more because this shit's crazy. And this is like another huge example of why these polymarket and the Kalshi, the ability to bet on like real life events and shit like that people absolutely have the ability to affect. Right, and manipulate. We talked about on the show the kid that ran onto the Super Bowl at the halftime show. Right, he put a bunch of money with his friend's account on that somebody would run onto the field during the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and then he just did it himself. Right, so then you could pretty much guarantee that bet was going to hit. Right, so same lines here. This guy knew that he was going to be involved in the capture, right? Bet on the fact that it was going to happen because he knew it was going to happen. Bet on the fact that it was going to happen before a certain date because he had the information to say that it was going to happen before a certain date. So that's just a huge problem with these gambling sites now. Cenk Uygur and TYT have named their, or I don't know if it's still named that, but at one point it was named the Polymarket Studio. So you can see how it's infiltrated and how they're trying to get their little grubby hands into every sector of society at this point in time. But yeah, that's just I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. I'm sure at some point you've heard about it, but it's just a very clear example of how like decrepit, right? How like fucking like the swamp that everybody talks about, like that's the swampiness. Like Donald Trump has created this atmosphere of like everybody is at your own cost, everybody at your own will. Do what you want when you want, and we'll just kind of defend it no matter what. Because there's a couple of clips here from Donald Trump at one of his press conferences, one of his little meetings, getting questioned about it. And not only does JD Vance make a joke about Marco Rubio using polymarket as it pertains to Iran, but Donald Trump basically saying, oh, it's okay. The whole world's basically turned into one big casino anyway. But we'll play a couple of clips of that coming up. There's also some more information coming out apparently about the firing of the Navy Secretary John Phelan here, and maybe why that was going on. We read yesterday a little bit from the New York Times article talking about how they were kind of button heads for a while as far as Hegseth and the Navy Secretary. It really didn't detail very specifically what it was about. It did talk about like the future of the Navy shipbuilding. But let's see here. This is just a quick clip that Ed Krasenstein posted from Fox News. He says, Fox News just reported that Pete Hegseth fired United States Secretary of Navy John Phelan because Phelan would not ignore a federal judge's orders. Hegseth and Phelan reportedly butted heads when Phelan refused to ignore a recent federal judge's ruling that said punishing Senator Mark Kelly for making a video video in which he reminded military officers of their constitutional duty to not follow illegal orders would violate his First Amendment rights. So it sounds like that Pete Hegseth wanted this guy to start to go after, to punish Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly, for coming out and being part of the, 8 or 9 senators, I forget at this point, that came out and reminded the military that they not only have to, not only should, but have to, again, deny illegal orders. So again, this is coming out now from Fox News. Let's just see if we can throw this on the screen. This is about 17 seconds, real quick clip. Just see what they say.
Hegseth and Phelan reportedly butted heads when Phelan refused to ignore a recent federal judge's ruling that said punishing Senator Mark Kelly for making a video in which he reminded military officers of their constitutional duty to not follow illegal orders would violate his First Amendment rights.
And again, think about how crazy it is now, right? I mean, we knew at the time that it was probably something that, would be pertinent, something that would probably come up. But now looking back, the Venezuelan vote strikes, all of the shit that we've seen here in Iran, it was pretty apt of those people to make that video to remind the military, considering what was to follow that video. All of the military actions, all of the threats, all of the rhetoric coming from not only Donald Trump, but Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon, etc. So, obviously we're going to be able to look back in time and point back to that video and be like, well, a lot more people should have listened to that. You would have saved yourself. You would have kept yourself out of handcuffs. You know what I mean? If you had just kind of listened to the senators that told you to do that. But there's a few clips coming out. I think it was this one. This little press conference or this little gaggle that they had getting together where Donald Trump once again decided to, take a cat nap. I think it was this one, if I'm not mistaken. But he also gets questioned here about the soldier that was arrested for the $400,000 that he profited off of the inside information. I think that's that one here. But I just wanted to go through a few of these clips, see if there was any other nonsense that we have to call out, see if there's any other bullshit that he's trying to spread right now. I'm sure some market manipulation is coming out. But let's see here. There's a couple of these dumbass clips that we have to go through.
And then show them the new one. And we're never changing MAGA. I don't have the courage to change MAGA. Make America great again. But, we're great now. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the most powerful country in the world by far. And we suffered years of abuse by people that were grossly incompetent, like Biden.
It's amazing, too, because the amount of delusion that you need to continuously believe this shit as it continues to go on, you know what I mean? It's just it gets more and more, what's the word? I don't know, creepy, gets more and more cringy as it goes along, like the people in their fake laughs in the background and the fucking hats that they have to keep making to appease this stupid son of a bitch, right? Oh, make an America is back. Make a Trump is right about everything hat. Make up something and put it on a hat and let me show it to the press. It'd be great. Like, this guy's just at this point, just stick him in the home, right? You can tell him that he's in the Oval Office, build him like a fake Oval Office somewhere, and I'm sure we could probably get away with it, right? If we just built him like a replica White House somewhere way out in the Ozarks or somewhere where he can't fucking bother anybody. We could blindfold him, give him a couple drugs, blindfold him, take him there with all the, the helicopters and Air Force One and all the bullshit. Get him off there, take him in the house. He'll never fucking know. Never know. He would have absolutely no idea, this piece of shit. He never. There's another one where Trump, if he's asked if he's concerned about federal employees using inside information to bet on prediction markets, he says, I don't know about it. If he bet against his team, that would be no good. But he bet on his team, so he'll look into it. Basically saying that at some point there's going to be a pardon coming for this soldier. You can almost guarantee, based on the way Donald Trump's talking about this. Listen to what he says. He's questioned here for the first time about the poly market prediction scam there.
Mr. President, apparently there was a special forces soldier who was involved in the capture of Venezuelan President Maduro.
Yeah, Roxanne, bring him some crayons and he can draw in the ballroom. Again, he can't go 5 seconds without bringing it. Seems like it's the only time that he's awake at all. Like, the only time that his eyes actually open fully is when he's talking about the ballroom or bombs or something like that, right? Unless he's talking about, wiping out an entire civilization or something like that. Typically, he's drooped over, he's fucking mundane, you know what I mean? He doesn't want to be there. He has no interest in the conversation. So he's questioned here again, like I said, about that poly market bullshit.
He was arrested by federal authorities today on suspicion of insider trading and betting on poly market. Are you concerned that federal employees are betting on these prediction markets and potentially getting rich?
Well, I don't know about it, but was he betting that they would get him or they wouldn't get him?
It sounds like he was betting on his removal from office, that Maduro would be removed.
Well,
It
that's
sounds like
interesting.
he was involved in the operation.
That's like Pete Rose betting on his own team. It's a little like Pete Rose. Pete Rose, they kept him out of the Hall of Fame because he bet on his own team. Now, if he bet against his team, that would be no good, but he bet on his own team. I'll look into it. Yeah.
Also, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll look into it. He said, you know what that means. You know what that means. And he's got one here where he actually calls it, you know, he basically says that don't worry, the world's turned into a casino, so it's probably not a big deal. Trump downplays concerns about federal officials using insider information to enrich themselves on prediction markets, saying the whole world, unfortunately, has become something of a casino. You know, basically saying, don't look, we're not going to do anything about it here. Maybe we'll help them out in the long run.
Look into it, yeah.
There are also bets that are being placed as well on the Iran conflict, too, and there have been some trackings where people suspect that there's insider trading happening on these prediction markets around the war. Are you concerned?
Well, you know, the whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino. And you look.
And you know what, guys? You know, based on Donald Trump's past history with casinos, seems to be running the world, if it is in fact a casino, just like his past casinos. So, you know, you can see where the world may end up is likely to end up if Donald Trump once again continues and consistently runs this world like a casino. It's going to be bankrupt and in the shitter. Right. The same way he's pushing it right now, but, you know, at the same time saying it's the most spectacular thing. We're the biggest and the greatest and the best and everybody loves us. Meanwhile, everybody despises us right now. Everybody hates our fucking guts. We're making people's lives a living hell. Asia, Europe, you know, the Middle East, the whole fucking 9 yards, all of our allies, NATO. I mean, at this point, we're talking about punishing NATO countries, NATO members that didn't come to Donald Trump's assistance, didn't jump to Donald Trump's aid in this, even though we didn't need it. We didn't need it. We didn't want you to help, but now we're going to punish you for not helping. It's like these motherfuckers. Unbelievable. But, you know, it's pretty apt that he decides to say that the world is basically turned into a casino. And since he's now at the head of that, that metaphorical casino, then, you know, it's likely that it's going to be run into the goddamn ground. So, you know what I mean? Pretty apt that he decides to call it that as well. But there was, I want to see if I could dive into a minute of this too, because I think they were talking about Donald Trump. Actually, hold on. Let me see here. Let me see if I can go back. Because 1 second, I didn't even get to I get so sick of seeing him that I don't even actually get to the part. Was it this one? Let me see. Incredible information. Spirit Airlines. Was it not that one? Oh, it's this one right here. Here it is right here. Let me throw this on the screen. Here it is right here. Because I didn't get to the good part. Here's where Aaron Rupar says Trump is about to hit REM on camera during an Oval Office event. It's just incredible. He's literally dead asleep again in the middle of this Oval Office event. Check this out. Grandpa, knock knock. Hello, wakey wakey.
We continue our work on negotiating international trade agreements. 59 days after we stood in this office and President Trump, standing with Albert Bourla from Pfizer, announced the first of the 17 MFN deals, together with our colleagues from the Department of Commerce under Secretary Lutnick's leadership and from the U.S. Trade Representative's office under the leadership of Ambassador Greer, we negotiated a landmark agreement with the United Kingdom, which they agreed to increase significantly the amount they spend on branded pharmaceuticals for the first time in 26 years. That work continues with other countries. And third, we will continue our work.
Sorry. My apologies. But come on. This is a 50-second clip. And for a good 40, let's keep it going. I'll play the whole 50 and we can calculate for about maybe a second or two, maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds. His eyes are open. Let's see.
With our partners in Congress to codify the principles that underpin these most favored nation deals, so that these savings for American families and this innovation that is unleashed at the same time persists for decades to come.
All right, so that was the entire 50-second clip. That was the entire 50-second clip. What do you think his eyes were open? I'll give him 3 seconds. I'll be generous and say for that 50 seconds, his eyes were open for a total of 3, as far as that's concerned. You know what I mean? And wheel him into the home. People. You know what I mean? What are we doing? But that leads me into this as a segue, because the I Had It triplets. I don't know, is this one of the husbands? I'm unfamiliar. You guys are always more informed than I am, so let me know who who the trio here, who's making up the triplets. But they are talking about Donald Trump sleeping in his White House presser. So I just figured they'd probably have some clever nicknames, or they'd have something to say as far as that would be entertaining. So what do you say we get into a minute or two of what they're talking about? Like I said, this is Sleepy Trump claims Iran war could last years in bizarre presser. He passed out again. So let's see.
Okay, and so there we have conflicting issues, but let's look at also yesterday in the Oval. If you think about a president of the United States making major decisions about bombs, about military provocations, about ceasefires, let's just do a little check-in on this Oval Office appearance in its entirety. Play the clip.
Work on negotiating international trade agreements. 59
Here we
days after
have,
we stood in this office, and President
he's
Trump
pretty much hitting
with Albert
REM here. I mean, we're pretty much hitting REM sleep here. Oh, wakes up just a little bit, and he's right back to sleep again. And this is a man who was nonstop, sleepy Joe Biden. And then Fox News, look, he wakes up. Look at him. He looks drunk. And then he wakes up, and then he just nods right back off again. So if he is doing this, in front of the cameras, in front of the White House press corps, in the Oval Office, one of the biggest stages in the world, what's going on in the Situation Room with sleepy Trump? And here's the thing, like, I'm not one of these Democrats. Joe Biden was old. It was painful watching him in the last 18 months of his presidency. I felt like he couldn't run. I saw it. And I was not going to allow myself to be gaslit that it was something that it wasn't. This is worse. We're at war, and Dementia Boy is falling asleep, drooling REM in the Oval. Pumps.
When I saw this, I honestly was like, somewhat, I mean, we see it all the time, but my head went exactly where you are. How is this person that cannot stay awake able to comprehend and make good choices? Well, we know he doesn't. The only time he lights up is when he talks about his ballroom and his art projects and all that. But here's the thing about it. This man sits there and tells us all the time, so do his aides. He has so much transparency. He's got the body of a 70-year-old. He's got the stamina of an 80-year-old. So that tells me they know how bad it is, and they allow this to continue by jerking.
I think they even make it sound worse, though. I mean, I don't know if she got the ages on that one wrong, but I think they try to make it seem like the guy's like a 21-year-old at this point. Like, oh, he doesn't need sleep. He doesn't need rest. Look at how much he works. He's a workaholic. A guy's never, oh my God, he's always on top of everything. He knows all the facts. It's like, no, they try to make it even seem worse than that, right? I think they'd push it way beyond or before the age of 70 every time they get in front of a camera. But, you know, whether or not she was just getting the ages wrong on that one.
Off that he's, got this great stamina. And the reality is this man should be in an old folks home. He's talking about the Vietnam War. So that's what we're doing now. 19, 18 years.
Yeah, not only that, but a guy that used several deferments to get out of serving in the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? I mean, it's crazy that people don't throw that back in his face as the reporter. Like, that would be one of the things that would come off my tongue the fucking quickest if I was part of the White House press corps, which is probably a reason why I'm not. Like, oh, that Vietnam War that you speak of. Yeah. How was that? Did you fight in that one? Did you get hurt? Where did you see action? Oh, no, you didn't see action. Now, why didn't you see action? Can we dive into that a little more? Because you did bring up the Vietnam War, and I'm glad you brought that up, sir, because there's a lot of people that did actually raise their right hand, take that oath, go over there, defended their country, lost their lives in a lot of cases. And what did you do again? I'm just curious. But, that's, again, why I'm probably not ever at any point going to be part of the White House press corps. But, that's what I would do. And then, not to cut them off, but there was one here that Jen Psaki put together as well, kind of pertaining to this and the same thing that Jen and Pumps were just talking about. Let me throw this on your screen real quick, because she put together like a little compilation of the times, or just a few of the times that, Fox News and the rest of these assholes were bringing up like corruption, bringing up Joe Biden's son, bringing up the relationship between them. And now that we're talking about, and I brought up yesterday, the 24 million Pentagon contract, right? That Eric Trump and his business partner was afforded, on top of the $620 million Pentagon contract that a Donald Trump backed venture was awarded by the Pentagon not long ago. But she put this together, and we'll dive back into the other one because I'm curious what they say about them falling asleep. But I wanted to throw this on there too because this was I think it's only like 2 or 3 minutes long, and this is a quick compilation of Psaki, who we haven't seen, talked about in a while, putting together that from Fox News, and then stuff that's going on right now. So check this out real quick.
Last night, I spent a lot of time going through one story after another about potential corruption, or very real corruption, I should say, in the Trump administration in some detail. But guess what? Because today is a day that ends in Y, we've got so much more to talk about. And this particular story centers around a specific conflict of interest that just a few years ago made right-wingers nearly foam at the mouth. Because this is a story about potential corruption involving a president's sons.
They have been 100% silent when it comes to this current president's son.
I mean, this is the president's son. Can you give me a bigger conflict of interest? No.
That is what creates this conflict of interest.
Why was this potential conflict of interest ignored?
Nothing but conflict of interest when you're taking money from foreign oligarchs.
So are we shocked that the president's son is getting special treatment?
This is about him peddling influence from being the president's son.
Whose son actually did profit off of his dad's government service.
Tried to profit off his dad's political career.
Profiting off his father's diplomacy.
Profit off his father's position.
Profiting off his father's name, and everybody is covering it.
There's vulnerability for bribery there.
And by the way, did I tell you his son has no experience, nothing really to offer?
I hope that they make him accountable. It doesn't matter if you're the president's son.
Why are they protecting the president's son?
Mm-hmm. Man, I love the video archives, don't you? Back when Joe Biden was in office, every MAGA talking head was obsessed with the idea that the son of a president might be profiting off of the presidency. They were shocked. They were incensed. They were pearl clutching till they broke those pearls. They demanded accountability for the president's son making money off his father's position. And guys, it wasn't even just right-wing pundits who were absolutely obsessed with that story. Trust me here.
We now know that Hunter Biden is going to be able to meet with prospective buyers at 2 art shows where his paintings are going to be on display later this year. So does this White House not have any concerns about the photos that have emerged showing Hunter Biden at that gallery alongside prospective buyers?
Okay, on another topic, was it common for President Biden to do favors for Hunter Biden's international business partners? On another topic,
again, just showing the blatant hypocrisy, right? Just showing the unwillingness of the media today, especially the right-wing media, to put 2 and 2 together, to recognize that these sound bites and these clips still exist of them out there talking about at no end, ad nauseum, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and everything in between, right? I mean, the dealings and the foreign dealings and his jobs and Joe Biden's brother-in-law, like everything. We heard it. There was committee hearings after committee hearings after committee hearings. But now all of a sudden they're getting about $1 billion in Pentagon contracts and shit that they have fucking absolutely no idea. Like all of a sudden Eric Trump's into drones and shit. No, and then next thing you know, like I said, Don Jr. is getting a $620 million contract for whatever his fucking, whatever company that he's backing had to do with. Like, you don't see the conflict of interest as we're engaged in a war that their father initiated. Like, it doesn't take really a blind man could really see that. You know what I mean? But she goes on here and details a little bit of the same things that we were talking about as far as, Eric Trump, Don Jr. and their dealings with the Pentagon. So again, just a little bit of the blatant hypocrisy from somebody that can't stay awake. I just figured I'd throw that out there for you. But let's see if we can go back into this one and see what they had to say here about Donald Trump snoozing while the world burns. And I put out, let me see if I can put this on the screen too, because I thought this was pretty apt as well. Let me go to my Blue Sky. Show you the post here. Go to, what do I go to? This one? Go to this one. Yeah, here you go. Tell me if this doesn't remind you of something. Let me show you this. So you got that here, and then you got this. Looks like the same vibe to me, if you ask me. You know what I mean? Just sitting there snoozing as the fucking world burns around you because of the shit that you've caused, because of the shit that you've done. You know what I mean? Like, tell me if that's not just like an apt representation. Like, tell me that. I feel like they're in the exact same position, even. You know what I mean? Is that just how like dictators sleep? when they're in the chair, I guess. Is that like the dictator lean? The dictator nod, I guess we'll call that. But yeah, that's you know, what it looks like, again, as you sit there catching some Z's as the fucking world burns and crumbles around you, because you don't give a fucking flying fuck. You don't have a care in the world, and the cameras are watching. But, you know, I thought that was pretty an apt comparison as far as that one was concerned. All right, let me throw this back on the screen and see what they had to say about him.
He's incompetent, not to mention not connected to reality. It's so stunning that this doesn't lead.
And I think somebody said that did somebody in the chat say that this was Jen's husband up here? Correct me. I thought I saw that fly by in the chat. Like I said, I was unfamiliar.
Every newscast.
It's also pretty amazing the context he provides when they interview him and how he just gets a pass on sort of his verbiage when he's talking. Like he says, I made a note, little boats with guns, we'll take them out too. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? Like where do you throw that in? And then he talks about, World War II, that was a biggie. Well, you know, it's a little bit more than a biggie. I mean, it's just, I think he just gets a free pass because if you listen to him, you can't walk away from hearing the context of what he says and think that man is.
That's nothing new, right? That's nothing new. We've talked about, endlessly about how, the people surrounding him have to come out time and time again and say, well, that's not what he meant. You know what I mean? What he really meant to say was, and I know he may have said this, but let me explain to you what his thought process was. Like everybody at every turn has had to come out and kind of rewrite history, rewrite what Donald Trump has said or put on fucking, Twitter or Truth Social or something like that. So this is nothing new. It's getting worse, obviously, as he gets older. But it's certainly nothing new for Donald Trump to not have the ability to speak coherently.
Competent. He's a leader. Like you can't. It's an impossibility.
And I just want to point out that he brings up the Vietnam War, and so many people were drafted and served in the Vietnam War, or like my dad, to avoid the draft, just signed up and went. And they went over there and fought. They come back. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about being veterans or any of these things because it was horrific. This guy's a draft dodger. He dodged the Vietnam War. Everyone in his generation had to go, but because his dad was rich and he could go to a doctor to make up some illness that he doesn't have in his feet, he was able to not go. So this is a draft dodger who's sitting here with the keys to the United States military, talking about extending this war that nobody in the United States wants except for a few neocons.
And she's right. She's right. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a clear indication to the rest of the world, too, when they sit there and they hear the disconnect between what Trump's saying and what they're seeing reported in, by other outlets and what they're seeing in reality, what they're seeing take place on the ground, when they're seeing him fucking continuously fall asleep in front of cameras, in front of reporters, while people are literally like speaking and doing shit around him. You know what I mean? That doesn't present a good picture to the rest of the world, again, as we're engaged in this illegal, unconstitutional, incredibly destabilizing war for so many regions on the planet. That's not a typical sign of leadership or a typical sign of something that they're going to be able to put trust in or have faith that this is going to like get better before it gets much, much worse. Right. So, a clear indication there of where our government is, as you see the leader, the so-called leader, sitting there snoozing again as the world burns around him because of the shit that he's caused. Back to, shit that, people that have caused chaos in this. Pete Hegseth had a couple clips here. I also have, let me throw this on the screen because Pete Hegseth did another one of these ridiculous press conferences where he had another few ridiculous clips in here to come out and try to, demonize the media and try to make it seem like we've achieved overwhelming victory and everybody's just kind of, out of touch with reality. Anybody that says that, the Iranians have somehow held their own or still control the Strait or anything like that, we know all the bullshit that they've said. But I don't think I'll subject you to the entirety of that. I thought I had a couple clips pulled up of this altercation, of this interaction. I think it's this one right here. So we'll save you on that one in that regard. I'll save you a few minutes. But there was a couple of them here that I did find necessary to go through. I think there was this one here where he says that the vessels that the Iranians seized in recent days, a couple of them, they're not American ships. They're not Israeli ships. They're just random ships. The real Navy is at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf. Right, which again doesn't make any sense because he's trying to say that the Navy has no power while acknowledging that they seize ships, but at the same time it's okay because they're not Israeli or American. Again, like we don't have partners, like we don't have allies that need to use the Strait of Hormuz. So basically what Iran has done now, Iran has basically tricked the United States into closing the strait that was open before the war and that the United States wants to open. See how that's working? Like it was wide open before the war, free international waterway, travel through it whenever, however, as you choose, when you please. It was awesome. You know what I mean? After the war, it's closed. Iran has the ability to close it, to put mines in it, to charge tolls, to charge fees, to tell you where in the Strait of Hormuz you can actually travel through. But also at the same time, they've now had the ability to trick the United States into blockading a strait that they want to have opened. You know what I mean? They don't want to see it closed because of the effect that it's having on the market. Yet that's now what they're touting as like their biggest weapon, as like the best outcome here is the blockade. It's like, okay, well, can we acknowledge that that's not part of the original plan at all whatsoever? Like not even remotely, like you said, that wasn't going to be a possibility for them to retaliate in this way. Now, all of a sudden, the blockade that you've now put in place in that geographical space, that geographical area, is like the victory that you're going to like to justify the rest of this war. Like, you see how ridiculous and like backhanded and like they just cannot scramble enough to come out with a victory in this case. But here's Pete Hegseth again trying to do more propaganda for the administration, trying to get you to believe that this is at the same time over, at the same time just ramping up, at the same time they have no military, but at the same time they did in fact seize a couple ships going through the strait. So try to work that one out in your head.
They are the bad actors. The vessels that the Iranians seized in recent days, a couple of them, they're not American ships. They're not Israeli ships. They're just random ships.
Yeah, random. No country.
Where they drove their little speedboats up to and shot at those ships with AK-47s. Anyone with a speedboat, a gun, and the wrong intentions can do that.
Yeah, I mean, great. That's just what we want to hear from the fucking Secretary of Defense, is basically the invitation to everybody with an AK-47 and a fucking fast boat to get out into the strait or any waterway that international fucking, travel passes through and get out there and just start shooting at the tankers. Like, what an absolute meathead, right? Basically, he's just telling everybody how effective that fucking technique is in this point. Like, Jesus Christ, what a meathead. Just an absolute meathead this guy is.
They know that we, the United States of America, control the flow of global shipping. And we know that they know.
Yes, and you've effectively stopped that, again, as they did, flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. So we're kind of at odds again. We're still in the same position. Like, the world is still feeling the crunch. The oil markets are still feeling the crunch. The people are still having to pay the toll to the Iranians. Like, again, we're still in the same position here as they try to come out and, again, claim victory.
Their real navy is at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf. It's worth saying again, for 47 years, Iran has been at war with America, killing our citizens, our soldiers, and our allies, while previous administrations looked the other way.
Yeah, we just looked the other way. There was no agreements. There was no deals struck. There was no like negotiations. There was no anything. There was just, we just totally, completely looked the other way. And then Donald Trump came and ripped up what? Nothing, apparently. If we looked the other way, how did Donald Trump had the JCPOA to rip up in the first place? Just curious how that works.
They are the bad actors.
So I didn't think that was one of the clips there. There's a bunch of them that come from this. The real endless war is the war that Iran waged on us for 47 years, again, with the same bullshit. This is where he goes on to try to lick Donald Trump's boots. President Trump's fortitude is unshakable. We will have all the time in the world. We're not anxious for a deal. And I hear him say it every day in private as well. A blockade, as long as it takes, whatever President Trump decides. Again, just totally out of touch with reality, with the hurt and the pain that is being caused everywhere right now. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to detail it on this show alone. The Asian Pacific markets. Obviously, we've talked about what's going on in Europe and how that could that's going to spread. We've talked about the flight cancellations. We've talked about the jet fuel. We've talked about the fertilizer, right? We've talked about the rise in not only the gas prices, but obviously the steady rise in food cost, the steady rise in goods, that come via ship or are supposed to come via ship or by any means of transportation that utilizes diesel or fuel or jet fuel. Any of those things, those costs are now being transported to you. They're being fucking transferred to you. These corporations, these transport companies, they're not going to eat these costs. So they're going to jack up their prices. And then they're going to jack up their prices, and it's going to go slowly down the chain until inevitably you buy that good at the store for a higher price that inevitably makes up for, the added cost that these companies had to face in order to get that product to you in your face at that store to begin with. So he goes on here to talk about we're not counting on Europe, but they need the Strait of Hormuz much more than we do, and might want to start talking less and having less fancy conferences in Europe and get in a boat. This is much more their fight than it is ours. Again, a situation that we created, a problem that we created that stems from something that we started, right? That is now affecting everybody in Europe and the Asian Pacific markets, like we just said. Now it's them, now it's our administration saying basically, hey, we started this, we fucked up, but hey, can you please come help us out? I know we're basically causing you guys irreparable harm as far as your economies are concerned, but hey, please, can you send some warships? Can you come help us out? Otherwise, we're going to punish you. Much like they're talking about doing to the NATO companies. He goes on here to talk about the War Department stands ready for what comes next, locked and loaded. May God continue to breast, and then he says, bless our warriors, and each and every day on every mission. Again, the war talk, talking about being locked and loaded. At the same time, we're hearing that we expended 50% of our THAAD interceptors, 50% of our Patriot interceptors, 35% of different very vital weapons platforms that we need, to again, and just in case something else were to kick off somewhere else in the world, just in case Donald Trump decides to, throw us into action somewhere else in the rest of the world, you'd kind of like the stockpile, safe to keep you safe enough to be able to utilize and to engage in those battles. But that's not exactly where we are right now, and it's going to be years before we can replenish that stockpile as well. Drunk and thinking about boobs at 8 a.m. That's why he said breast. So again, people hammering Hegseth on his little slip up there. So let's see. We'll move on though, because there's not too much of Pete Hegseth that I can deal with. But let's see. Let's dive into these because these have been, again, a fan favorite for everybody. There's been a few of these that we looked over, that we passed over because of the amount of these that have come out. My apologies, couldn't keep up to track, couldn't keep up to speed with all of them. You know what I mean? So there's a few that I think that I've missed over the last few days. So I just figured we'd go through, just a couple of these, just a couple of them. Like I said, there's about 1.5 billion of them that have come out. So it's impossible to show you guys all of them. But these are just a few of the latest ones that I think we missed going over on the show from the AI Lego bangers going after Trump. I'm not sure what this one is, but again, we're going to learn together. We'll go through it together. I think there's about 2 or 3 of them. So buckle up, strap in, smoke them if you got them. Cheers if we're drinking an adult beverage, guys. Get your popcorn ready because the Lego bangers are back, baby. The Lego bangers are back. Let's hit it.
Breaking news, we coming live tonight. From the headlines to the streets, yeah, the tension's tight. Obama back, now the spotlight's bright. Something shifting in the game.
Obama making an appearance.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel that vibe. Yeah.
What do we got? What do we got? What do we got?
Yeah, from the east to the west, from the Bronx to the south. Voices getting louder, people speaking out. Democrats rising, yeah, they changing the route. Turning pressure into power, that's what it's about. Let me break it down, let me show you the scene. Numbers going up like you never have seen. Every post viral, every miss clean. Talking about democracy and what it means. Former president stepping back in the frame. Millions watching.
Is this the Obama video? The whole thing's about Obama?
Every move, every word, every name. Message going global. Now we're spreading like flames. Saying people still got power in the middle of the game. From Europe to America, the pattern is clear. Movements getting stronger, people losing their fear. Every vote matters, every voice you hear. And the energy building as elections draw near. It's the Democratic report, yeah. We live again, every city, every state. Feel the rise within. From the Bronx to Georgia, here to
like a Democratic anthem. Like the Lego Life people are trying to build us a Democratic anthem here.
crowd begins, something big is coming, yeah, it's closing. Yeah, back in New York, yeah, the moment was real. Obama in the Bronx, now the cameras reveal. Kids in the classroom learning how to feel. Talking about the future and the power they heal. Teachers watching, yeah, the room came alive. Energy rising, you could see it in their eyes. Simple moments, but the meaning goes wide. It's about the next generation and the hope inside. Down in Georgia, yeah, the crowd getting loud. Thousands in the building, voices breaking through clouds. Talking about the system and the weight on the ground. Cost of living rising, people feeling it now. From the prices in stores to the bills every day. People asking questions like who's leading the way. And
From the prices to the bills every day, people asking who's leading the way. Again, looking at the prices of the milk and the peanut butter and the soup and stuff on the shelves. Again, they touch on a lot of the things that people talk about, which is why I think people find so much enjoyment, or at least kind of a reason to watch these things. But here's one about Jared Kushner getting his $2 billion from the Saudis. Again, touching on pretty much every aspect of the criminalities of the Donald Trump regime, Epstein files, Melania. I mean, they've gone through pretty much everybody at this point. Cattell, fucking Pete Hegseth, the rest of these degenerates. But this one is specifically going after Jared Kushner and his $2 billion from the Saudis. Let's see what this one's rocking with.
Everyone's asking how I stay motivated. It's simple. Be the son-in-law. Step 1, get the White House badge. Step 2, wait, that's it.
Yo, walked out the West Wing feeling kinda cute. No experience, but I look good in a suit. Forgot the portfolio, forgot the track record. But my father-in-law's the one who held the record. 6 months later, take the bank account balance. $2 billion for my hidden talents. I call it affinity. Sounds like a dating app, but it's just me and the prince.
Look at him sitting there with fucking MBS.
A nap on a better go, yeah, the glaze is real. I didn't even have to pitch to close the deal. Just a LinkedIn profile that said I'm the guy who watched the Middle East while the drones flew by. It's the infinite money glitch, yeah, you know the vibe. $2 billion just for joining the tribe. No interview, no vetting, no grind, set stress. Just a text to MBS and a yes. 2 billion. How's your 9 to 5 going? I'm in the Saudi desert and the cash is flowing. The Senate's like, wait, this doesn't look right. I'm like, don't be a hater. I'm living my life. If expert said this guy is a risk, but the prince hit the lead with a flick of the wrist. He likes my style. He likes my hair. $2 billion for the gaslight. Gatekeep hair. I'm out here managing funds. I can't explain why you're complaining about the price of the grain. Building Neom in the sand. It's a vibe. It's a flex. I'm the only one cashing you geopolitical checks. Security clearance? Nah, I don't need that. I got a crown on the phone for a little chat.
So many people ask me, Jared, how do you do it? And I tell them, it's about the network.
And by network, I mean my wife's dad. Look, I ain't mad at the game, I just want it first. While the rest of the world is feeling the thirst. Soldiers in the field, yeah, they're doing the most. I'm just at the golf course, being the host. Raising $5 billion now, the sequel is coming while the taxpayers' ears are starting to drum. And it's not corruption if you call it consulting. The level of the flex is honestly insulting. So keep your tactical gear and your military pride. I'll just take the $2 billion and enjoy the ride.
Wait, you guys actually work for money? That's crazy. Shout out to Riyadh. $2 billion.
Damn. So Jared Kushner, just one of the latest targets here in the Lego videos. I think there was one more of these things, but obviously these things just, boiling right down to the reporting that we know, the stories that we know, the facts that we know. Again, they continue to hammer away at these things. And again, from anybody from California, I think they had one here from, a little bit of California love, a little bit of California fights back. I think this was back when, and like I said, these are just a couple of the ones that I think we've missed, over the weeks that these have been coming out from the different accounts. But I think this was, I forget if it was long enough. I'm now forgetting the timeline if it was pertaining to what was going on in California. I don't know if they mentioned specifically, but this is titled California Fights Back. Definitely got that California vibe. So I just figured I'd, represent for all the Cali's, Cali peeps in the chat there. So here we go. This is the last one that we got for the day. The Cali banger that slipped through our fingers. The Lego banger from Cali. Let's check it out.
The West Side has entered the chat.
You know what? California knows how to fight back. Out here in the Golden State, we protect our own. Text.
California knows how to fight back. California knows how to fight back.
In the city of LA, in the city.
Good old white.
Come on.
In the city of Compton, we keep it rocking. Sanctuary strong.
California, stand up.
Stand up.
California, hands up.
Hands up.
Use the rage, we never back down. Golden State.
Yeah, we hold it down.
Ice braids in the hood trying to snatch our people, but California said, nah, we ain't playing with you. Sanctuary laws, Mayor Base shut the gates. No staging on our blocks, we don't cooperate. Protests in the streets from Sec to San Joe. After them shootings, we said, hell no. Farm workers, families, kids born here too, we shield them all. That's what real ones do. From Willowbrook to the Valley, we rise as one. Trump's feds coming heavy, but the fight just begun. UCLA data dropping, arrests trying to spike, but the people in the streets keep killing the mic.
California knows how to fight back. California knows how to fight back.
In the city of LA, in the city.
Good old
Like this, this is in the category of I would play it in the car. You know what I mean? Like this is in the category of like I would throw that on the playlist. Definitely, I'm telling you. There's a few of them that they're funny, they're hilarious, they're pertinent, they're up to date with what's going on. But there's a few of them out there that are just like they hit differently.
In the city of Compton, we keep it rocking. Sanctuary strong.
California stand up.
Stand up.
California hands up.
Hands up.
Beats the rage, we never back down. Golden State.
Yeah, we hold it down.
No more running, no more hiding in fear. California represent loud and clear. From the Bay to the border, we linked up tight.
Ice out everywhere.
That's the battle cry tonight. Judge in the courtroom, bills in the Senate. We suing, we limit them. We ain't having it. This the way.
We got a Democratic anthem. Now we got an anti-ICE anthem here for at least the California peeps. I'm sure we could change the lyrics in some form to Minnesota, right? We could probably do Minneapolis. We could probably do a few of these, right? Might have to change the tone because, well, I guess maybe it's close enough. But anyway, I digress. But some anthems being put out here.
West Coast, baby, we built different. Protect the community. That's the real mission.
California knows how to fight back.
Fight back.
California knows how to fight back.
Yeah. Sanctuary. Forever. We never fall. California, represent.
And like I said, just a couple of those that we had to review there because they fell through the cracks. I'm telling you, there's too many to keep up with, too many stories to tell as far as that's concerned. But, I appreciate you guys. I think a lot of people still digging those, when the Pentagon has to speak up, when the Pentagon and like YouTube has to try to crack down, they're kind of having an effect. You know what I mean? You just, it's kind of what it's telling me. But, shout out to the peeps over there. I like you. All right, let's see here if we can dive into a little bit of this LBC clip here. James O'Brien, who's been doing some fantastic work, I got to say, for a long time, but he's been kind of making the rounds. He's been getting the clips out there, the viral clips as it pertains to his kind of blunt talk as talking about Donald Trump and the Iran war and stuff like that. So, good to see him getting his dues, as it were. But this is where he's talking about Donald Trump threatens to review Britain's claim to Falkland Islands. Again, this is in retaliation to the UK not coming to Donald Trump's defense, not trying to come to Donald Trump's aid to help him out in this situation that Donald Trump inevitably started in the first place. But there was a few minutes of this that I wanted to touch on to see if we could get some further insights and hear what James O'Brien had to say about the latest threat from Donald Trump regarding one of our allies, one of our closest allies, one of our longest standing allies. And again, the detriment that's doing not only on the world stage, but again to everyday people that may not have thought the things that they are now thinking about the United States just some years ago. But let's see if we can touch on a little bit of what James O'Brien has to say here about this. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. I know I failed to say that a lot during the show, but please hit the like button, subscribe if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're watching, if you get some value, some information, some benefit from the chat that we've had here, make sure you hit that like. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you to the mods, as always. Let's dive into it. What's up, Benny Loco? What's up, kiddo? How are you? Good to see you in there. What's up, Luck Dragon? What's going on, peeps? What's up, Tina? Love you guys. Appreciate you. Hit that like button.
So for certain generations, these are absolutely huge words. The idea that the US could review Britain's claim to territory that is British and is populated entirely by British people, albeit that it's in the middle of the South Atlantic. Argentina's claim to it is no greater or more historic than ours, quite the opposite, in fact. What does that mean? What do those words mean? The US could review Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. We're getting off quite lightly. They're talking about chucking Spain out of NATO. The man's mad, isn't he? And this is what I find really, what's the word that I want? I mean, I don't know if the word exists, actually, because frustrating doesn't even touch the sides. What I find utterly disgusting is the way that they all facilitate him. So the Pentagon, arguably the finest fighting machine in the history of humanity, is now sacking good people, as Simon Marks will talk to us about later, and populating the corridors of power with pusillanimous sycophants who are sitting there coming up with
pusillanimous sycophants. There's a new one.
Punishments for allies because they refuse to join an illegal war. How far and how fast the United States has fallen. Because this is what we were talking about yesterday. It's not going to be enough if they get somebody half decent back in the White House. The damage...
How fast and how far the United States has fallen, right? Spoken by James O'Brien, thought by millions around the world. That's the fucking problem, right? And this was something that we pointed to and talked about in Trump's first administration. The respect, the trust, the way in which people viewed the United States was drastically reduced in Donald Trump's administration. Everything that he said, all the embarrassing things that he did on the world stage, pushing world leaders out of the way, getting laughed at speeches when he says he's done more than any other president in history. Any number of the things that we could talk about that he's done in these international meetings. Believing Vladimir Putin over his own intel agencies, right? We talk about that one. There's a billion of them that we could talk about, but said by James O'Brien, thought by millions around the world, how far and how fast the United States has fallen. And that's a shame. It really is a shame. We tried to prevent it. We told people that this was going to be the outcome, that this was going to happen. This was the problem in which, we were facing if Donald Trump was to get back in a second term here, and that's exactly where we find ourselves. But at a further point, just like he said, how far and how fast, I think it even surprises us, the people that were aware, that were ready for this, that were calling this shit out, that were predicting these things. It's even surprising to us how far and how fast we have fallen, especially on the world stage.
That has been done to everything is going to be generational. What are you doing in the Pentagon today? We're compiling a list of possible punishments for NATO allies who didn't support our war. It's pathetic. It's the politics of kindergarten. And yet it's real. An official told...
It's the politics of kindergarten, and yet it's real. Again, I know these, we've heard it probably before. It's, we all recognize how insane it is. But to hear, mainstream media, to hear people from other countries now, almost outright laughing at the fact that this is the policies, these are the policies, I should say, these are the positions, this is the government now running the United States, is just so fucking embarrassing. It really is. It's just, it's utterly dehumanizing. It's just kind of you want to crawl into a fucking hole. You want to Homer Simpson your way back into the bushes, basically, and just nobody see me, nobody look at me, just go on with your lives. Something like that. It's terrible. But he's spot on. You know what I mean? It's spot on. As tough as it is to hear, as bitter of a pill as it is to swallow, he's right. He's spot on.
Reuters that the email said granting American forces access, basing and overflight rights from military bases was just the absolute baseline for NATO, displaying a complete ignorance of what NATO is, what NATO does, and what NATO is legally supposed to oversee. It's genuinely breathtaking. This happens to me a lot. I think, I can't do this again. We've got a Trump story coming around, and I think, I've had my fill now. I can't do this again. And then you dig into the detail of it and you find your fury or your disgust, your outrage being replenished and being refueled on an extraordinary level. They are looking at ways of punishing NATO allies for not joining a military escapade that is almost certainly illegal. That's where we are today. That's what they're doing in the actual Pentagon.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie there? You know what I mean? He's calling out the hypocrisy. He's calling out the insanity, right? But anybody that's on the other side of the aisle, anybody that's sitting on the other side of the fence that defends what Donald Trump is doing, where is the lie? Okay? Where is the lie? Not only is the war in itself an illegal act, but also the acts, taken inside of that illegal war have become illegal acts with the war crimes that the United States and both Israel has committed. You know what I mean? It's where's the lie in this? I beg you to point it to me. I beg you to highlight, to spotlight where he's wrong, where the lie is. Again, if you're on the other side of the aisle, if you're on the other side of the fence, if you support Donald Trump, please leave it in the comments, leave it in the chat. Where is the lie?
A bloke A department that is run by a man who thought he was quoting the Bible when he read out Samuel L. Jackson's lines from Pulp Fiction.
Fuck. God damn it. God damn it. Fuck. Like, that happened. That's a thing. That's a thing. That happened. Fuck me. Oh, it's so utterly humiliating. Utterly fucking humiliating and so dangerous at the same time. Like, it's humiliating, dangerous. Like, you don't want to deal with it, but you have to deal with it because it's so dangerous. Like, so many people's lives are at stake. So much is at risk. So much is going to have to be repaired and fixed. Like, it's just like, that happened, though. What he said happened, just in case you missed it. That happened.
No wonder they've all gone silent. No wonder Farage is pretending he never said we should join the war. Badenoch's reverse ferret was visible from space. Dick Littlejohn in the Daily Mail writing about old episodes of The Bill, instead of writing about why he was absolutely adamant that we should have been joining this war and never be more ashamed to be British that we didn't join in. It's breathtaking to me where we are now. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about Keir Starmer. I kind of want you to say nice things about the Prime Minister because I don't think...
So then he goes into, obviously, a little bit more of the localized British politics, as it were. But again, I beg of you, anybody that disagrees with my point of view, that disagrees with James's point of view, that defends Donald Trump, that supports this war, that can tell me some metric in which we are better off now than we were just before this war started. I beg of you, please put it in the chat. Please leave a comment, something. Tell me how the hell you could possibly come to that conclusion, or where anybody is wrong in calling this stuff out. Because no, well, you know, the latest I've seen is stuff like this. And I think this is absolutely shit that needs to be called out, and shit that has been called out here a long time. This is a little bit of video evidence of the Israeli demolitions to destroy southern Lebanon towns and villages, much like we described to you guys, and much like the Israeli leadership described, like they wanted to do to like they did to Gaza, they want to do to Lebanon. Well, again, the video and pictures coming out from them are now kind of pretty self-evident as far as how far they're willing to go, the lengths that they're willing to go in order to enact that brutal genocidal policy in Lebanon again. So this is just a really quick short from BBC Verify. And again, as you see on the screen, it says Israeli demolitions destroy South Lebanon towns and villages. And the reporter goes on to further describe what's happening. So yeah, just a quick clip of exactly what people are defending, what people are supporting when they talk about, the ongoing war here between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu.
This might look like a video of an airstrike, but there's no missile. That's because it's a controlled demolition by the Israeli military in southern Lebanon. Our investigation has found Israel has destroyed more than 1,400 buildings in towns and villages since March, which experts say may amount to a war crime. It comes after the Iranian-backed armed Lebanese group Hezbollah launched missiles into Israel in response to the US-Israel war with Iran. Israel has been carrying out these detonations in at least 7 villages and towns. This town was one of the 2 where we found more than 400 buildings destroyed. In Taiba, about 4 kilometers from the Israeli border, multiple aerial videos we verified show detonations of buildings after explosives were planted by Israeli troops. It's worth saying this is just a snapshot of the overall damage. The true scale of the Israeli attacks is likely to be much higher. It's part of an operation that has also displaced more than 820,000 people across Lebanon south. That's according to the UN. Israel's forces have occupied southern Lebanon since mid-March, when they invaded to attack what they call key Hezbollah strongholds. Since then, Israel says it's creating a security buffer zone up to the Litani River, covering about 1/10 of the entire country. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, has said he ordered the military to accelerate the destruction of Lebanese homes and the border villages in line with what he called the model in Gaza.
Okay, does that paint a clear picture for everybody that this is the leadership saying this, giving you clear indications, clear policies, as to what and how they want to see these actions undertaken? The visualizations are pretty clear and consistent between what we saw take place in Gaza and continue to see, and what we're seeing here in southern Lebanon.
Since the war began. That's according to the country's health ministry. Israeli authorities said 13 soldiers and 2 civilians have been killed by Hezbollah over the past 6 weeks. The IDF told us it operates in accordance with the law and that it doesn't allow the destruction of property unless there's military necessity.
And again, that's what we have the likelihood of seeing kick back off, as we've talked about the reporting of, Israel, rehashing and revamping their target packages inside of Iran. We heard Pete Hegseth say just this morning that the United States is locked and loaded. Donald Trump's not really worried about these negotiations. We're sending kind of, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to talk to the Pakistanis as opposed to talking to the Iranians who were engaged in a war with. So the likelihood of this escalating before it de-escalates is becoming much more likely, and things like this are only likely to continue for the people that again support this and can some way say that they defend any of this shit whatsoever. But let's see if we can switch gears just a bit here. I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Like I said, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, and it's only with your help that we're going to get there. We've been digging into a lot the ongoing MAGA battles, the ongoing MAGA civil war here at Blunt Politics. We're trying to pry those cracks open as much as humanly possible, trying to make it as clear and as evident that these people are soulless, lifeless hacks that just wanted to grift from their audience and want to continue to grift from their audience, even the ones now that are just like all of a sudden coming and seeing Jesus and seeing the light now that they've been lied to and propagandized to a point where it's evidently obvious to everybody on the fucking planet except for the last group of sycophants left. Well, we talked about the Laura Loomer, Candace Owens feud that's been going on. Well, it seems now it's being picked up by other people. Seems now that like other people in this like arena are touching base on this one, and one of our buddies, one of our good old pals, no, not that one, but this one, Benny Johnson, swinging from both sides of the plate. Benny here has something to say about it. Apparently, he wants to highlight just a little bit of the feud going on, and I think he's taken the side of Laura Loomer. I think he's more along the, I'm still a sycophant. I'm still supportive of what Donald Trump does. And I want to defend, Erica Kirk and Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth as much as I possibly can. So just want to see if we can, again, stick our crowbars in the cracks of the MAGA civil war, pry them open a little bit, now highlight the ongoing feud between, I guess, Benny Johnson and Candace Owens that continues to stoke the flames of this feud that is ongoing and very detrimental to the MAGA base, not the base so much, but definitely to the GOP, right? The GOP for a long time utilized people like Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the list goes on, for them to have and be in lockstep with their rhetoric, be in lockstep with their propaganda, to be demonizing Democrats, to be lying about Democratic policies and what Democratic policies would do if they were put into law or if they were enacted, right? That's when they're most effective. That's when they were, they had the ability to sway, whether it was the younger vote, whether it was, white women down in the South, whatever it may be. Like they had their opportunity, their best opportunity to change the outcome of the elections or to make sure that people either did or didn't get out to vote. But that's not what they're focused on now, okay? That's not what they're spending a large majority of their time talking about. Now they're talking about the infighting. Now they're talking about the people that are calling out Erica Kirk, the people from the MAGA base that now all of a sudden are calling out Donald Trump, right? So the feuds, like I said, between Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the people that are now more actively speaking out, even if it's like the comedian podcasters, the Theo Vaughns, and who's the schmuck with the mustache? Who's the prick with the mustache? What's his name there? Schultz, fucking Adam, Andrew, Jack, whatever, some Schultz, that kid. So even if it's the comedian class that were responsible for, to some extent, for getting Donald Trump elected, for having him on the broadcast, for having them on their shows, for, for lying about what Donald Trump represented or carrying water for Donald Trump's promises that we all knew were never going to come to fruition. Well, again, this is why we continue to highlight this, because the more that they're speaking about each other, the more that they're, fucking fighting with each other and trying to defend Trump from one another and not the, the American population, the American citizenry and the voter base that are going to get out there and vote in midterms and vote in these special elections and vote in the general election. That's beneficial for us as progressives, right? As people on the left, that's very beneficial because now we have those open airwaves that, the Fox News assholes and the OANs and the fucking RSBNs and the Newsmaxes would use on their television shows, on their broadcasts, on their live streams to lie and to keep that thing flowing, right? So RSBN would say something. Benny Johnson would make a video about how RSBN said something. And then, somebody would make a video on how Benny Johnson said something. And then there'd they'd bring it back. So it would all flow through, and inevitably it would end up on Fox News somehow, right? According to Benny Johnson, or according to Newsmax, right? That's how it all worked. It was all just a big circle jerk of propaganda for these assholes. But, you know, again, they're all distracted, and I will continue to highlight and make sure we, continue that distraction. So again, this is Benny Johnson. Did Candace Owens just flee America? Right. Yesterday, it was Laura Loomer saying that Candace Owens' husband got plunged in the ass by Milo Yiannopoulos. So what is it going to be today? Just curious. Get your popcorn ready. Here we go.
Candace Owens has confirmed, and she confirmed rather abruptly, that she has left the country. I thought I had announced I was traveling with my family. See you guys next week, she says. No show today. Because people are saying, where's your show? Candace Owens says, I've been traveling overseas all day. So sorry, I'm late for reacting to this ridiculous trend that should be edited. I did not trade racial slurs with Laura Loomer. She's a maniac throwing racial slurs, and I've been laughing at her. Thank you for your attention this
And again, that's in response to yesterday's clip that we played on the show where Laura Loomer, again, went into, like Candace said, a pretty racist tirade in describing Candace Owens and her intentions. We played that on the show in case you want to put that out there. I put out a couple of shorts about it, I believe, as well.
Okay, so Candace confirms that she's been traveling overseas and sort of abruptly says she's not going to do a show. Laura Loomer says that there might be something else going on here. What do we think?
Just look at what this video is. Just look at what this video is. It's Benny Johnson, a right-wing MAGA hack, right? A Russian propagandist, a Kremlin-backed, a Kremlin-paid piece of shit, right? Talking about another conspiracy theorist piece of shit in Laura Loomer, somebody that's known for being on her knees in front of Donald Trump on Air Force One, somebody that's known for being one of the ugliest people to ever fucking walk the face of this earth right now, somebody that honestly, mistakenly gets confused with the alligator that she has propped up just behind her. A lot of the times I'm like, how the hell is she speaking when the mouth is, oh, that's not her. That's her right there. My apologies. And then that's being talked about because she's calling out another right-wing hack propagandist piece of shit in Candace Owens. You know what I mean? Like the circle of evil here is just, it's never ending. You know, it's just like this whole thing could go on forever. Now, Alex Jones could make a bit about this, like I'm Alex Jones and I'm going to call out Benny Johnson for calling out my girl Candace Owens, right? I don't stand with Laura Loomer. I stand with Benny Johnson. Nope, I don't stand with Benny Johnson. I stand with Candace Owens. Like you can see how this thing is just like never end. And then Tim Pool is inevitably going to make a video on who's wrong or who's right. But like the whole thing it's chef's kiss in terms of like the downfall of the society that was the propagandist that built up MAGA. And again, like I said, to a large extent, Donald Trump still has that, sycophantic base that supports his bullshit. But inevitably, right, and I don't know how fast it's going to be, I don't know how long it's going to take, but inevitably the people that watch these shows are either going to start listening to the Candace Owenses, the Alex Joneses, the fucking Tucker Carlsons, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, right? Whether it's little by little, a small percentage at a time, going to start being like, okay, these are the people that we once listened to get into this movement. Now they're telling us that we were lied to by this movement. Maybe we should find another movement, right? It's always going to be that at the same time. And then now that's inevitably going to filter down to the base. And at some point, it's going to have a huge impact, a huge effect. So again, this is just kind of the inevitable downfall that everybody predicted was going to come. And now we're just seeing it in real time.
Candace Owens had to abruptly cancel her show today and travel abroad. She never alerted her audience to her travel plans. Interesting how she's fleeing the country the same day as I reported.
Interesting how she's fleeing the country. And then this is, again, a post by Laura Loomer that Benny Johnson is putting on his show. Interesting how she's fleeing the country the same day I reported that her Zionist Jewish lawyer dropped her ahead of an important deadline in her lawsuit with the Macrons next week. Remember, I exposed her secret trust where she's hiding nearly $12 million in real estate, among other assets. Her other lawyer's firm specializes in bankruptcies. Is she moving her money abroad and hiding assets abroad so she can file for bankruptcy? She's fleeing the country. Again, says Laura Loomer of Candace Owens. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That her Zionist Jewish lawyer dropped ahead of an important deadline for the lawsuit, the Macrons next week. Remember, I exposed a secret trust where she's hiding nearly all of her real estate assets. Her lawyer's firm specializes in bankruptcies. Is she moving her money abroad, hiding assets abroad so she can file for bankruptcy? She's fleeing the country, says Laura Loomer. I don't pretend.
Whoa.
And nor am I trying to do anything other than report out what is being openly and
Yeah, he's not trying to stoke the flames here, right? He's not trying to fan the flames at all. He's just, again, Tim Pool type of shit. He's just reported on the facts, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way in which there was any other stories that he could have picked in the morning or picked during this day to report on, right? I'm sure he did about 15 fucking videos. He decided to make this one of the videos and put together the 37 Twitter posts, the Twitter fucking accounts that he has up there on his tabs to make this video and put this video together. But no, he's just, again, he's reporting from the outside. This in no way is trying to fan the flames. This is in no way trying to get on Laura Loomer's good graces and, again, tell everybody that he's against Candace Owens. He's just, he's doing his duties as a good Kremlin reporter.
Probably the number one thing on my timeline, certainly, because I follow all these people and I know some of them, right? And I guess I would just say that it's interesting timing.
Oh, he looks so uncomfortable too. He looks so uncomfortable having to report all of this shit. Like he sees it. And like I said, a couple weeks ago at this point, may even be like a month ago at this point, Benny Johnson made a clear decision, right? When this Iran war was just starting to go bad, when it was very clear to everybody that there was no off-ramp, there was no guardrails, that there was no thought or plan put into this. There was no kind of mitigatory, policies put in place to, make sure that the Strait of Hormuz didn't become the problem that it's become, to make sure that the U.S. bases in the area didn't get hit as hard as they were getting hit, to make sure that the service members that lost their lives didn't lose their lives. Like none of those things were thought about. None of those things seemed to be, planned, predicted as far as the retaliations from the Iranian side. But now you got Benny Johnson, who clearly made a decision to just say, fuck it, right? I'm not going to, as far as the downfall of Donald Trump, as far as the bad, news is coming, I'm not going to report on that. We're just going to sit here and we're going to toe the party line. He even said it in one of his videos, not to that extent, not that same verbiage, but, he basically came out and said, all right, I'm sick of it. We're either going to be with Donald Trump, we're either going to be 100% supportive of Donald Trump and everything that goes along with it, or you're going to be on the outs, right? So he clearly decided that he's going to stay with the party line. He's staying. He knows where his bread is buttered. You know what I mean? He knows where he gets his fucking paycheck. Kremlin's going to have a hard time sending the paycheck. If he starts moving out of his MAGA field, they might not know where to find him. So that'll be tough. What the fuck's he going to do at that point? But he made a clear choice that he's going to stick this out, that he's going to propagandize. So now, instead of, reporting on all of the bad shit going on as it pertains to the Strait of Hormuz, the oil crisis right now, what's going on in Virginia, all of the bad shit that he could be reporting on if he did, in fact, see himself as like this independent journalist. No, he's deciding to talk about this and people that, that have spoken up against Donald Trump. Candace Owens being this one, right? He did one the other day about Alex Jones and how Alex Jones's InfoWars got sold to The Onion, right? That just happened to make it onto Benny Johnson's table of like content to make a video about that day. Like you can see who he's trying to attack. You can see who he's trying to like portray himself as what side is, what side he's being on. So it's pretty clear. It's pretty evident in that regard. He goes on for another, I don't know how the hell he goes on for another 5 minutes. Like, what the hell does he have to talk about as far as this is concerned? Oh, basically, he just pulls up everybody on Twitter that had a post about this. look at this. Look at how many friggin', look at up top at the top of the screen. Look how many Twitter posts. Not a single other site. He's got True Social as the first one. Not a single other source. Not a single other source besides Twitter that Benny Johnson uses to make a fucking video about. Like, if that's not your first red flag on you shouldn't be listening to these people, I don't know what is. You know what I mean? Do I use Twitter because different outlets post on Twitter? Absolutely. But do we normally, go straight to like the New York Times or the Guardian or, utilize different platforms and different places to get our information? Yeah, we do. All right, let's see if we can hop on to our next topic that I wanted to put up here. What was this is a good one here. We're going to start getting into a little bit of this. So this is from The Sun. This is Ukraine smashes key Russian oil facilities as Kremlin frontline territory lies exposed. So again, this is detailing the ongoing strikes and the effectiveness, not that one, but this one. Sorry, I do that all the time. My apologies with the jump scares for these Republicans. You're expecting to see something else, and then I put like Laura Loomer on the screen. So again, I feel like I have to consistently apologize for that one. But we're talking about, I believe this is a video or a shot that you're looking at right now of the 2 apps facility that we saw that was struck a couple times by the Ukrainians, causing some pretty substantial damage, as you can see. I think this is just basically going over kind of what's happening since. I think it was some 2 or 3 days afterwards now, maybe even into 4 days, that the fires were still burning in these facilities. So again, talking about the amount of destruction, the amount of damage, and the amount of repair that's going to need to be done in order to get these things back up online. So let's just see if we can dive into this and see if we get any more information. We got a couple of these to get through as well. There's one here by Sokamimis. I don't know how you say that guy's name, but he's done some pretty good reporting because the Ukrainians targeted the FSB in Donetsk and were pretty successful in that strike. So I want to detail that. And then there's one here from RFU News talking about the Crimea is taken by storm. Russian ships obliterated with new missiles. So again, that's some heavy shit to dive into. All right, let's see if we can put this one back on your screen and dive into this one again. Just a few minutes of each of these videos. Let's see here.
Ukraine has hammered a Russian Black Sea oil loading facility as exports from Moscow plummet by up to 600,000 barrels a day. And Kyiv is considering sending 4 of its mine hunters to help reopen the Straits of Hormuz. Not bad.
Oh, Jesus. Again, how beautiful is that? How beautiful is that, right? We continue to pull up and talk about the, the fight between, or I wouldn't even say it was a fight, but the berating that Volodymyr Zelensky got at the White House by Donald Trump, by J.D. Vance there. Talking about how, listen, you guys in the United States, I know you think you have an ocean to separate you guys. I know you guys think you aren't going to feel the pain. You aren't going to feel the crunch here, but you are definitely going to feel the crunch. And I know he may have been talking about a different conflict, but it was only a matter of time before the United States, because of what Donald Trump was undertaking, because of all the wars and military actions that were undertaken, until we did feel this crunch from one aspect or another. So to see that not only has Zelensky been meeting with different, allies in the region and the Middle East to talk about, how we could help them defend against Iranian missiles and drones, but also we talked about the Prince Sultan Air Base that was utilizing Ukrainian technology to defend that area, and now hearing the report that they're going to start sending, drone boats to make sure that they could, get the drones out of the Strait of Hormuz to try to help open the Strait of Hormuz. So I wonder what Donald Trump's going to have to say about that.
For a country that Donald Trump said had no cards to play. My name is Jerome Starkey. I'm the defense editor at the Sun newspaper, and this is Frontline, your weekly roundup of the most important news from the war in Ukraine.
He's in Kyiv. I know that.
And I'm speaking to you today from Kyiv on my latest reporting visit. We're going to start with what's happening in the close battle. The Institute for the Study of War reports that Ukraine has made modest territorial gains around Kupiansk and Konstantinivka. It also has undermined Russian claims to have captured some 1,700 square kilometers this year. General Valery Gerasimov, the chief of Russia's general staff, was visiting troops in the Southern Command fighting in Ukraine. And he, in a briefing, claimed that they'd captured 1,700 square kilometers and some 80 settlements this year alone. The ISW says it's confirmed that Russia's captured just under 400 square kilometers. That is a quarter.
Wow. So you're saying they lied? You're saying that the Russians lied? I mean, that's going to be a big surprise to everybody in this chat. That's going to be a huge surprise. Guys, I know. Take that with, with what you will, that the Russians lied about the amount of territory that they've gained, the amount of victory that they've achieved here, the amount of goals that they've obtained. It's crazy to hear, but I think, what do you say, less than a third? So he basically tripled the amount to try to get a little bit more, benefit, a little bit more, a little bit more glad handing from Vladimir Putin, as it were.
Of what Gerasimov claimed, and just 13 settlements. So he's exaggerating that at least sixfold. The fact is, it's undeniable that Russian progress has slowed this year, and the price that Moscow is paying in terms of lives for each inch of Ukrainian territory it gains has increased. And that is part of Ukraine's deliberate strategy of attrition. We've heard.
And again, like I said, I always talk about how like dark of a subject it is to talk about, but that's something that is necessary. That's something that has been talked about for a long time on the Ukrainian side, the kill ratio, and they need to see that, be at a much higher rate than it has been, and to see that, the Russians are now starting to lose territory and lose soldiers at a faster rate than they can put them into play, that they can put them back into action, is going to have a detrimental effect. Obviously, now that we've seen the uptick in the amount of drones, and the fact that the Ukraine has the ability to send in more drones into Russian-occupied territory than seemingly the Russians have to lob back at them is also a good turn of events. And again, we've talked about endlessly the spring and summer offensives and how the attacks are probably, or definitely, I should say, going to increase because of the length of the day increasing, because of the ground thawing out, because of these different tracks and routes that weren't open up to heavy armor and different vehicles before now being opened up and able to use. So again, this is only something that it's good to see momentum on the Ukrainian side getting into this time that we know seems to ramp up almost every single year, obviously.
From the new defense minister, he wants to increase Russian casualties to 50,000 a month. It's ruthless, but that is what Ukraine sees as its route to inflicting pain on Russia.
I mean, just what an astronomical number, right? It just doesn't even really cause us to blink anymore, knowing what we know about the Russian losses that they've incurred. We talk about some 1,700, 15 to 2,000 a day that they're losing, but 50,000 a month. 50,000 a month, and we talk about the outrage. We talk about the disconnect between like Americans and the amount of people that we're willing to sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like it's not even fathomable to think that the United States or somebody in the United States government would have to come back to the people of the United States and say we lost 50,000 in a single month, regardless of where we were or what we were undertaking. Like you can see the difference there in the mindset, obviously, between the Russians and how much they're willing to take, how much loss they're willing to incur, and obviously everybody else in the world and what they think about and how much they care about their soldiers that they send into battle.
Russia to force them to withdraw from this conflict. In the long-range battle, we're going to start with that strike on the Rosneft oil loading facility in Tuapse. Significant dramatic footage of a huge inferno and smoke billowing into the sky. It's particularly significant because we've talked before about the barrage of strikes on the Baltic ports further northwest of St. Petersburg. Ukraine hit Primorsk and Ust-Luga in recent weeks, creating a significant decrease in the export opportunities from there. Russia's been forced to divert oil, rely on other facilities, looking back towards the Black Sea. And just as it looks towards the Black Sea, Ukraine hits it again. There has been a massive increase in Ukraine's long-range strikes over the last couple of years. I was looking at an analysis by a Ukrainian think tank that reported that in January 2024, Ukraine launched about 100 long-range drone strikes against Russia. In March 2026, last month, that figure had increased to 7,000, and the number of targets, the number of areas that they can hit has increased to a corresponding rate. That's a 70 times increase, and that has forced Russia to choose what it protects with its limited air defense. We've talked before of how Ukraine's size has been one of its greatest strengths in its defense, because just the sheer volume of territory that Russia has to try and capture to conquer this country makes it an enormous challenge, a challenge that Russia just simply doesn't seem up to. Similarly, Russia's size, were Ukraine trying to capture Russia, Russia's size would be a strength. But when it's trying to defend it in this context against long-range airstrikes, it's a weakness because it's such a vast territory. It gives Ukraine a huge array of targets and various routes that it can take to those targets, stretching Russia's air defenses.
And again, putting that into play with the 70 times increase in the amount of targets, the amount of actions, the amount of missiles and drones sent into, Russia. comparatively to what he said, January 2024 compared to March of 2026. I mean, it just goes to show you how difficult, or if not impossible, it is for Russia not only to continuously defend that much territory, but defend against that many strikes, defend against that many fucking actions against these, whether it's Primorsk, Ust-Luga, whether it's the Tuapse facility, whether it's their military sites, whether it's just like their airfields, whatever it might be. Like, you can see the territory that they have to defend, not only within the borders of Ukraine as well, within the occupied territory. Like, just that alone, you can see the difficulty, how difficult it is going to be and continues to be for the Russians to make sure that they can keep any of these things safe. I was going to say all of these things safe, but it doesn't seem like they can keep any of it safe at this point.
Reuters has reported that these combined strikes on Russia's oil exporting facilities has reduced exports since January by around 300,000 barrels per day, and since last year by up to 500,000 barrels per day. Now, that is significant because suggestions were in the Moscow Times that before these strikes on the Baltic, exports were around 4 million barrels per day. So that reduction is approximately around 12% of Russia's export facility. Now, at the same time, prices have increased because of the war in Iran. We've seen the price of a barrel.
Right, but that's still 12% of the oil that they're not able to profit off, right? If they got 12% of the oil not making it to the market, that's 12% of the oil that they're, again, the Ukrainians are able to mitigate some of the increases, some of the benefit that they've seen, Russia has seen because of the increase in oil prices, the instability caused by the United States and Israel with their war with Iran. So again, these strikes in these different facilities and these different ports and not allowing the Russians to get that fucking oil onto the market to whoever they're selling it to, again, is having a mitigatory effect. It's a shame that it's not having as much of an impact as it would if they weren't able to profit more from the price per barrel, or if they weren't able to profit more because of the lackadaisical sanctions or the relief in sanctions that they've seen. It would be better, but to see that they're still having an impact, the amount that they're having an impact, and still Russia isn't benefiting to the point that they would if Ukraine wasn't striking these places, is still a good thing to see.
Of Ural's crude jumped by about $10 to $70. So in real terms, that compensates. That's about a 16% increase in the price. So that is being cushioned, but nonetheless, oil accounts for about 25%.
So let's say like a net, what do you say? Net 4% right there. So instead of a net 16% increase in the amount of profits they're seeing, it's now down and been mitigated to a 4%, right, increase, which is, again, I know 4% is a lot better than 16% when we're talking about the amount of money Russia is taking in to continue this war, to continue funding whatever they fucking want to fund. You know what I mean? So you can see there the numbers
Russian
match up.
Budget revenue. These strikes clearly having a massive effect on the Kremlin's coffers, on its war chest, and that Ukraine's hope is that is going to limit Russia's ability to continue to prosecute the war. Of course, in the long-range battle, it's always a two-way fight, and Russia continues to hammer Ukraine with long-range missiles and drones. It's not quite a week since my last frontline update, so these figures aren't quite like for like, but over the last 6 days, there have been 1,130 missiles and drones fired at Ukraine. That's starting just the day after that massive 700 missile and drone bombardment that we talked about last week. Just last night, they hit a railway yard in Zaporizhia. At least one worker has died of his wounds. That seems to be part of a new Russian strategy to go after different types of infrastructure, targeting the railways. They've also started targeting war.
Which is, again, a huge worry there for civilians. Obviously, in a place where you can't take, flights, where you can't fly around the country, a huge country like Ukraine. Obviously, the trains there are utilized to a large extent to get across the vastness of the country to get to different places. So the fact that the Russians have now decided to open up the targets, to trains containing civilians, carrying civilians across the country, is obviously a big worry for anybody that utilizes the trains. That anybody has to go visit their family using the trains, get to work using the trains, whatever it may be. Obviously, you can see how that would kind of put fear into the eyes of anybody traveling on that, and it just goes to terrorize the public, which is, again, something that Russia is very willing to do and loves doing.
water infrastructure. It's curious, that could be a lesson they're copying from the Iranians, who've threatened and targeted water infrastructure in the Gulf, which is clearly absolutely crucial. Desalination plants in the countries in the Gulf, which have very limited water supplies from their desert territories. Here in Ukraine, it seems to be because the winter is over. Russia had been focusing on energy infrastructure to try and break the will of the people. They did spectacular levels of damage, and that is going to be felt next winter as well. Ukraine will be trying to repair as much as it can, but that legacy goes on. Now there appears to be a shift towards railway and water infrastructure. On the Ukrainian Navy mine hunters, a really interesting story by my excellent colleague Larissa Brown at the Times newspaper, that Ukraine is considering deploying its 4 Sandown class.
We'll end on this. I'll hop on to the next clip after this. But this is, again, chef's kiss. A beautiful story to see. But as I go on to say here, Ukraine considering sending 2 of their minesweepers to the Strait of Hormuz to help assist the United States in clearing the strait to hope get that open sooner rather than later. But again, the yelling and screaming match that Donald Trump was engaged in when Zelensky went to go visit him, telling that basically Zelensky needed to mind his own business and everything was fine, and we didn't need anybody's help. We didn't need help from NATO or Ukraine or anybody else. So he better mind his own business. Well, we'll see how willing he is to accept some help this time. Check this out.
Mine hunters. Now, these were Royal Navy vessels that the UK gifted to the Ukrainian Navy, and their objective was to help Ukraine clear the mines in the Black Sea after the conflict. But that is clearly not on the horizon. And there's the Montreux Convention prevents warships passing through the Bosphorus Strait at times of conflict. So neither Russia nor Ukraine can send warships into the Black Sea. There's been talk about possibly trying to get these warships up the Danube. But the fact is they'd be very vulnerable if they are in Ukraine or near Ukraine to Russian attack. Sending them to the Strait of Hormuz would be a really symbolic gesture of Ukraine's growing military prowess. And it comes on the back of their offer, indeed their actions, sending teams, anti-drone teams with interceptor drones and expertise to help the Gulf states create that layered air defense with better, more cost-effective weapons to defend against Iran. Now, sending the Sandowns to the Gulf, highly theoretical at the moment. Of course, it all depends on how and whether Donald Trump can bring his attack on Iran to an end. But nonetheless, Ukraine will be discussing,
which again doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon if we're to judge by the rhetoric coming from Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, seemingly willing to sit back, sit by, and just let the damage be done on the world stage, considering the continued closure of the strait and the people that rely on that. There was another one here detailing an ongoing action, an action by the Ukrainians that targeted the FSB in Donetsk. So I want to see if I can touch base on this again. I think there was 12 FSB officers eliminated in this one attack, where seemingly the Ukrainian intelligence was good enough to recognize not only what building they were at, but where in the building they were staying at, and made it quite known that they knew where they were heading. So this is just a quick update on that strike that, again, I believe eliminated. Yeah, it says up top there, Ukraine drone operation eliminates 12 FSB officers in Donetsk. So let's see if we can take a look at this action, this strike here by the Ukrainians, and how effective it was.
Hello everyone. So we're going to start the day with these 2 videos here. These are shared from Donetsk and show a Ukrainian operation targeting a command post of the FSB in a former hotel in Donetsk city. This was clearly identified as being a massive target by Ukraine. As you can see, 8 FP2 attack drones were used here. You can see the drones were all hitting the same spot on the building.
Again, not detailing, kind of like a random act, a random attack of a single drone that just may happen to see something in its intelligence, in its surveying of the battlefield there. So this is clearly something that they knew was a target, sent up multiple drones to that target, and wanted to make damn sure that that target got hit. Again, in case 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the drones didn't make it for whatever reason, they still had. It sounds like they sent up 8, so they would still have 4 backup drones to make sure that at least some of these got on target. So let's see how effective it was.
In time and time again. So Ukraine clearly had great intelligence here. For the
You can see here, this is definitely not the first drone to come in. You can see the fire, the fire coming out of the side, the smoke coming out of the side of the building here. And this drone going at that very same location in the building, detailing to us that they have calculated, they have pretty much assessed that this is either the unit or the side of the building or the area of the building in which the FSB was utilizing for their base or for their quarters or whatever it may have been.
FSB were inside at the time and were exactly in the building that FSB were. Right down
Another
to the
angle from the
exact
strike
room they were using and when, which is very impressive. According to Ukrainian sources, as a result of this big attack here, 12 FSB officers were eliminated in the strike and 15 injured. The drones used here were FP2 attack drones, which have a warhead of up to 100 kilograms, so they pack quite a punch. So this was clearly a great strike by Ukraine, and a good demonstration of Ukraine's intelligence service in pinpointing where exactly the FSB operations were, and another demonstration of how ineffective the Russian air defense is. The 8 drones managed to hit.
And again, you can see here that the damage left to the building after the strikes. But again, as you were saying there, not only is the detail the utilization of the Ukrainian intelligence and knowing exactly where the FSB was going to be, but also the lackluster defenses that they have, the lackluster air defenses that are in place in, again, these occupied territories that they've had a substantial amount of time to defend, to put up defenses if they in fact had the ability to do so. But I just wanted to make sure that we're recognizing and highlighting all of these actions here undertaken by not only the Ukrainian intelligence, but also being able to utilize their drone teams, link up with their intelligence and get those two things working together to take out what it says there was 12 or 13 FSB members that will not be able to utilize their services in an attack against Ukraine any longer. So what do you say we finish up with this? I might even get you guys out of here a little early today on a Friday afternoon. You guys can have your day for, the rest of the day to yourselves, to do your gardening, to do your planting, to do your shopping, to do your whatever you guys want to do. So what do you say we just dive into a couple minutes of this? This is by RFU. That's not it, but this is RFU News, Strategic Geopolitics. Crimea is taken by storm. Russian ships obliterated with new missiles. So anytime I see new missiles, I'm always curious what technology is being utilized, what technology is being implemented onto the battlefield. So I figure, you guys with me together, we could dive into this and see if there's any new information, any new intel that we need to be aware of, any new actions and any news updates that we didn't see from any of these other clips. So again, I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I appreciate your support for not only the politics and stuff going on inside of the United States, but sticking with me for obviously our passion and support for everything going on outside of the United States as well. So Slava Ukraina, Heroyam Slava, Chinga la Migra, FDT, all of the good things that we say here. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Again, RFU News, Crimea is taken by storm. Russian ships obliterated with new missiles. So let's see what we can get into here. I appreciate you guys.
Today, there are important updates from Crimea. Here, the escalation has reached a new level, as Ukraine has just unleashed new Swedish missiles in combat for the first time.
Swedish missiles, huh?
They caught Russian defenses.
I wonder if they're red and tasty.
Prepared and were able to open the way for a series of strikes that took Crimea by storm and obliterated some of the last Russian ships there. The Ukrainian Navy launched a salvo of advanced anti-ship weapons against a Russian-held Black Sea drilling platform near the Sivash area, roughly 70 kilometers from the Crimean coast. The Swedish-made RBS-15 missiles slammed into the structure with devastating precision, triggering massive explosions that engulfed the platform. Russian forces had turned the rig into a forward air defense, reconnaissance, and electronic warfare outpost, making it a critical node in their defensive network over Crimea.
All right, well, let's get a little better acquainted. Here. Let's see what they're using. I'm always curious to see here. RBS-15. RBS-15 is a long-range fire and forget surface-to-surface, air-to-surface anti-ship missile. Jesus Christ. If I can try to get try to get an acronym out of that one. The later version, the MK4, has the ability to attack land targets as well. The missile was developed by the Swedish company Saab, Saab Dynamics. The Swedish Navy earlier made the RB-08 anti-ship missiles. Let's see here. Let's go through some of the characteristics. Type: surface to air, like we just said. Surface to surface missile, air to surface, anti-ship, and land attack missile. 1984 to present, huh? So it's not that relatively new. Mass 820 to 810 kilograms. Length 4.3 meters. Diameter 50 centimeters. Wingspan 1.4. Warhead, that's what I want to know. 200 kilograms. High explosive blast. Pre-fragmented warhead. Impact or proximity. What's its range? Operational range 70 kilometers for RBS-15, 200 kilometers for RBS-15 Mach 3, and over 300 kilometers for RBS-15 Mach 4. So again, just kind of going through the weapons platforms. This looks like, let's see here. This looks like one of them right here. Looks like the RB-15 Mach 2 in that picture. Some on a ship platform as well. Here's their launchers. Another launching platform from the ground, from the ships. All right, so again, just kind of to get better acquainted with what's going on, as I typically like to nerd out and do. Appreciate you guys for sticking with me on that one. All right, let's go. Play.
The debut of the new Swedish missile was supported by Ukrainian naval and FPV drones, effectively erasing this important position in a single coordinated blow. The introduction of the RBS-15 fundamentally changes the dynamics of the Black Sea battlefield, with the missile developed by Saab in Sweden being a highly advanced and capable of operating in complex electronic warfare environments. Measuring over 4 meters in length and weighing around 650 kilograms, it carries a 200-kilogram high-explosive warhead and travels at near-sonic speed. What makes it particularly dangerous is its guidance system that combines inertial navigation, GPS, and terminal active radar homing, so it can independently locate and strike targets without further input after launch. Its sea-skimming flight profile keeps it low enough to evade radar detection, while built-in electronic countermeasures make it highly resistant to jamming or spoofing.
Does it really fly that low? I mean, obviously that's just a visual representation there of the weapons platform, but looks like it's trying to represent that it flies awful goddamn low to the water. So again, you can see how it would make the radar, it would make radar very difficult to pick that up if in fact, again, it's anywhere near this height. Again, I'm sure that's just a visual representation, obviously, to give you an idea. But, depending on what its actual height of where it's supposed to travel, I'm sure, the lower it gets, the more difficult it is to pick up.
Built-in electronic countermeasures make it highly resistant to jamming or spoofing. Most importantly, the modern variants supplied to Ukraine extend the missile's range beyond 200 kilometers, allowing...
just look at the range that it now gives the Ukrainians, that the Russians definitely want to keep their ships out of this area. Not that they've been kind of willing for quite some time to put their fleet back into the Black Sea because of obviously the problems that they faced, let's just say, early on in this war. Russian warship, go fuck yourself, if that rings any bells for anybody. But again, just to kind of, I wanted to see what kind of new platforms they were utilizing, what abilities that gives them now, what the Russians now have to contend with, what else they have to deal with as far as weapons platforms utilized by the Ukrainians. So let me see here if it goes on at all to talk about. Yeah, I think it says here that one more of these strikes that was utilized as well. Let me see here.
Platform immediately translated into operational advantages, as it removed a key Russian surveillance and air defense node. Ukraine effectively opened a corridor into Crimea, allowing follow-on strikes to penetrate deeper and with greater success, which was followed by a series of coordinated attacks across the peninsula. Ukrainian forces destroyed a Russian patrol aircraft at the Kirovsky airfield, confirmed by satellite imagery, eliminating a valuable reconnaissance asset used to monitor maritime and coastal activity, further degrading Russia's ability to prevent other attacks. At the same time, Ukrainian intelligence units struck the Kerch Strait logistics network, disabling the railway ferry Slavyanin. The last operation.
And again, that's the very famous bridge that we were bringing up earlier on in the war and continue to look at as far as a target for the Ukrainians, the Kerch Bridge, and whether or not they're inevitably at some point going to take that thing down into the water, as many people have suspected. But you can see here that these, the new weapons platforms, as he said, clearly opening up like a corridor, a route, as it were, into Crimea, which, we probably can suspect had some, impact on their ability to strike the Tuapse oil refinery there, and continue to hammer away on that and continue to hit and strike different targets inside of Crimea. So again, just to highlight, recognize, and get more acquainted and educated with the platforms and weapon systems that they're using. So we're not surprised, you know what I mean? So we're not, so we know what's going on. That's kind of what I like to do as far as this is concerned. I know we try to touch base on a lot of stuff here on this show, so just to try to keep everybody as informed as possible on as many things as humanly possible. But I know we're a little bit early today, and I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Every now and again, I feel like it's good getting you guys out of here. We still have to go through all the thank yous as well, so we probably won't be too early when we finally get out of here. But what do you say we get into the thank yous, guys? I'll let you guys enjoy the sun if it's shining where you guys are. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon this Friday. Celebrate making it through another week as the world burns around us. Celebrate whatever you can celebrate. Obviously, anything that you can celebrate these days is probably greatly appreciated. So let me just see here if anybody was kind enough to send a Venmo or two over today. I appreciate everybody from the last couple days as well. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you so much, Kristen, for sending over $10 from Colorado. Thanks for reporting and humor and for the swear jar. Well, I thank you, Kristen D. I appreciate that very, very much. Very supportive, very nice of you, very kind. Thank you so much to Geneva as well, Geneva H. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you. No, thank you, Geneva. Very much appreciate you. Thank you to Yakov for everything that you do, my brother, for your contribution. For coffee, I appreciate that. I'll throw that into a Powerade or a Gatorade or something, but it all goes to the same place. Thank you so much to Yakov. Thank you, Roxanne, for everything that you do. Hugs to you and Lobster Pop. Sending the best of vibes to you both. Much appreciated, Roxanne. And again, everybody else from over the last couple of days for supporting this show, for supporting the channel. Anybody that's kind of liked all the shorts, if you could send out and share the shorts that we do from these live streams. Again, a lot of people don't have the attention span to go through a 2-hour live stream, so we try to cut it down as best as possible so people can kind of see the different clips that we have. So thank you to Judd, thank you to Yakov, Damon, Mike. Thank you so much to Jenny Faye. Thank you to Roger and Karen. Thank you to Barbara for all that you guys have done over the last couple of days. Tom and Victoria, very much appreciated for all the help and support. Again, you too can contribute here on the Venmo. Take a quick picture. I think you just open up your camera, take a quick pic of the old QR code up here. It'll take you to the Venmo. It's the quickest, easiest, and kind of the best way to support the channel, along with many other routes. But again, I don't think that YouTube's grubby fingers gets to take any part of that. So a buck or two is all we ask for. Anything above and beyond that's totally up to you. Depending on your financial capabilities. We do everything independently here. We don't charge for any of the content that we put out. You don't have to come out of pocket with any money to see any of the stuff that we put out there. Everything is done by us, for us, and with us here on this platform. No ads, no financial backers, no anything like that. So it's all with your generosity, your help, and your support of the channel, the merch shop, and stuff like that we continue to grow. So I really do appreciate every single one of you for doing that. Let's see if we can thank some people over here on YouTube, and I'll get you smiling, beautiful bastards out of here. How about that? Thank you, Yakov, for starting off today live from Boston. I appreciate that, my dude. Thank you so much. Shout out to everybody at the household. Hope you guys are enjoying today. Hope the sun's shining where you are, my brother. Thank you so much to Deb as well for the one gifted membership. Very, very much appreciated, Deb. Always good to see you here. Always good to see you contributing. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much to Jin. My last 420 since I took Boston Brian's Bruins bet advice. Shit. I told you. God damn it. You had to remind me. I had just forgotten about it, Jeff. I had just fucking forgotten about it. Right? Yeah. Not a loss. Unfortunately. I hope you didn't put the house on it. Hopefully you didn't put the house on it. But I appreciate you, you sarcastic son of a bitch. Thank you. I appreciate you, dude. Not a gamble if you know you are going to win. Right. But again, that's why I don't say those things, and we don't give financial or gambling advice here whatsoever. So thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you. Appreciate your humor as well. Thank you, Petrazi, for being here for 22 months. I have truly enjoyed being a member here. You're a gem. No, you're a gem, Petrazi. I always say I'm not very good at taking your kind words, so I like to flip it around on you guys all the time. I am very appreciative. I am very blessed to have the community that we have here. I am very, very impressed with you guys and your passion to support communities like this, with your passion to stay involved, in politics today that is very deeply troubling, frustrating, angering. So again, it's a lot of respect coming from me towards you guys here in the chat. So I appreciate when you guys reciprocate. So thank you so much, Petrazi. Thank you to Wes being here 24 months. Let's fucking go, brother. Congrats on 2 years, dude. Can't believe it's been 2 years, right? Time flies when you're in hell. I mean, when you're having fun. So I appreciate you, Wes. Thank you so much, brother. Congratulations. W's to people in the chat now with their milestones. Thank you to Nola for 2 months. Let's fucking go, Nola. Thank you, Nola, for the contribution right after that. Thank you, Yakov, for the contribution right after that. Shout out to all of you fabulous people. At this point in history in the United States of America, there's more to be ashamed of than there's more to be proud of. Unfortunately, that is the degradation that we've seen here, kind of perpetrated by the GOP, the Republican Party, and Donald Trump since him getting into politics. But again, it's not really entirely new. It's not entirely that new. Obviously, the wealth inequalities, the wage gap, the degradation of the roads, bridges, railways in this country has been a long time in the making. So, but to a large extent, you're absolutely right as far as how people view us now on the world stage, as far as how our allies and how NATO views us as being unstable, untrustworthy, incompetent. So again, as hard as it is, as big of a, like I said, as a tough as a pill as it is to swallow, I think we all have to swallow that pill at some point. So I appreciate you, Yakov. Thank you, Frank, as well. Doing nothing is my business. Well, you do it very well, Frank, and I appreciate that, dude. I appreciate somebody that does something well, even if it's nothing. So thank you for your 17 months here of loyalty. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a wonderful day, my friend. Thank you so much to Masha for the 2 gifted subs back to back. Masha, I see you. You saint you. I see you in there. Thank you so much, and hopefully you're giving the kitty a little back scratch for me. Give a little catnip if you got it there. Bobby Slacks. What the fuck's up, Slacks? How are you, brother? Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here and a member for 22 goddamn months. You saint you. Right back at you, my dude. All the love in the world to you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you to Aaron West in the chat there. Love to Brian and everybody in the chat. Right back at you. Not only to Aaron, but everybody in the chat as well. Much love to you guys. Thank you, Mr. Spark. Let's go, Spark. Appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you. Shout out to you. Thank you for being here for 16 months. Right back at you. All the pleasure, all the respect, all the support, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you to Shockey as well, rounding it out today, Shockey, for being here for 8 months. Let's go. Keep the pressure on, as I will, as you know I will. And like I said, hopefully at some point we get this unbelievably big platform to utilize so that we can keep the pressure on even more. So again, as we see these numbers continue to grow, hopefully with your support, if you find some benefit, if it's, you find some information, some education here, you guys like what you're seeing and want to see this platform grow, then think about subscribing, think about liking, sharing, leaving a comment afterwards. All that stuff goes to help. And I guess we're not getting you all that. We're not getting you out of here all that early today. A couple of minutes, so utilize it well. Utilize it well. I appreciate the mods as always for everything that you guys do. I appreciate the best chat on earth for everything that you guys have done and continue to do to support this channel. Like I said, we're on our way to 20K. Share the show. Help us get there. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. It's free. It doesn't cost a single fucking cent to do it. So again, if you're worried about that kind of changing the algorithm or having to pay for anything, don't worry about it. It is all free. The likes, the shares, the subscribes, all free. So thank you so much. Head over to bostonbrian.com. Check out all of the information, whether that's the show schedule, whether that is the schedule for the Zooms that we do for the Patreon every month, or that is the link for the merch site, which has some of the best merch that I think an independent channel less than 20,000 subscribers could ever put out there for people. There's no fucking ifs, ands, or buts about it, where you stand, on what side of history you stand when you buy some of this merch, if not all of it. So again, check it out. If any of it floats your boat, think about supporting the channel, supporting the cause. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Rox. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Yakov. Thank you, Roxanne, Frank, Bethany, Dame, DPD, MM. How are you? What's going on, Benny Loco? Deb, Bobby Slacks in the house. Shockey. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Falcor. Thank you, Laurie, Luck Dragon. Everybody in the chat. Love you guys. Gen05, how are you? What's up, Mad Mac? Alvin. Thank you so much, Shockey. Ian. All you guys are the reason that we continue to grow, the reason why I have the passion to continue to do this. Thank you to Keith, and thank you to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and Substack. Very much appreciated. I will see you, what's today? Friday. So I'll see you Sunday. See you Sunday for the main show. And again, unless something big happens, unless some breaking news comes out that is worth reporting on, and then you'll have to utilize that notification bell to let you know when I go live. So hit it now, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button before you leave. Help the platform grow. Let's get to 20K. I appreciate you. My name is Brian. This is Blunt Politics, and I will see you guys Sunday. All right. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel out there, but stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. Make sure we're supporting the cause. All right. Thank you, guys, and welcome to the fucking opposition. Welcome to the resistance. Appreciate you. All right. I'm out. Thanks, guys. What's up, my brother? Heroin slava. Thank you, Vicky. Appreciate you, Vic. Hope you have a good day. Appreciate the pops. Happy birthday to Tim once again.
Inviting Americans from all across the country to come.
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
The kidney has a very
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
He says rectum damn near killed him.
Taking him back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses.
In the hell was that all about?
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
I say mud, I said crud. Fall into some crud or something?
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Cacophony, a crescendo, a finale, a coup de grace.
I mean, they've been conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There were trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful out. Give yourself a round of applause. You're so lovely. Everyone's so lovely.
Brian, you're drunk. You're drunk.
Bad news, bad news. Even when it's good news, it's bad news.
Where you going? Nowhere.
Like we always do about this time.
Water coming here is dead.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
You're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your.
He builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was, the Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch.
My superpower's being honest. I will eat my neighbors.